It's time for Supply Chain Now Radio, broadcasting live from the supply chain capital of the country, Atlanta, Georgia. Supply Chain Now Radio spotlights the best in all things supply chain. The people, the technologies, the best practices, and the critical issues of the day. And now, here are your hosts.
Hey, good morning. Scott Luton here with you live on Supply Chain Now Radio. Welcome to the show. We are coming to you today from the AIAG SCAC Supply Chain and Quality Conference in North Charleston, South Carolina. AIAG, the Automotive Industry Action Group, SCAC, the South Carolina Automotive Council. This conference is dedicated to the world of automotive, and we're going to be meeting with many of the leading industry thought leaders that are participating here. Big thanks to our conference broadcast sponsor, the Effective Syndicate, for making our coverage possible. The Effective Syndicate helps companies win by optimizing process and developing winning cultures. You can learn more at theeffectivesyndicate.com. Quick programming note, like all of our series on Supply Chain Now Radio, you can find our replays on a wide variety of channels: Apple Podcasts, SoundCloud, Spotify, wherever else you find your podcasts. As always, we'd love to have you subscribe so you don't miss anything. So let's welcome in my co-host here today, Mr. Greg White, serial co-host, Supply Chain Now Radio, serial supply chain tech entrepreneur, and trusted advisor. Greg, how you doing?
Hey, I'm doing great. It's great to be here.
It is great to be here.
A beautiful morning.
And it really was. And it was an easy drive down here as well.
No doubt.
And Bo Groover, founder and president of the Effective Syndicate and co-host of our Leadership Matters series here on Supply Chain Now Radio. How you doing, Bo?
I'm doing just right. Good morning.
Good to see you as well. I know you've been traveling quite a bit lately as well.
It's been a little bit of a whirlwind, but I'm having fun.
Absolutely. And so we've got a great guest. This is our kickoff podcast for our coverage down here, and we're gonna kick off with a rock and roll star, Jim Liegghio, program manager supply chain with the Automotive Industry Action Group. Jim, how you doing?
Good morning, gentlemen. Doing very well, thanks.
Great to have you here, and appreciate what you and your organization do to make these events happen.
Yeah, thanks very much. We're excited to be here, third year in a row in Charleston, putting on this joint event with South Carolina Automotive Council. We've had 2 successful years, and we know that today and tomorrow will be a third good run. So thanks for having us. We're excited to have you guys here as well. Thanks.
I was excited to see 2 beautiful cars parked out front. I was so looking forward to this because I love cars, and I think you guys are off to a great start already.
Well, as we talked about in the warm-up, Jim is partnering side by side with Amy Tinsley, which we're a big fan of.
Future governor of South Carolina.
That's right. So we're big, but this is our first event like this our first AIAG SCAC event. But we have really enjoyed the run-up and the conversations to the run-up. We've got a great slew of interviews set up over the next 2 days. So thanks for everything you and your team have done to make this happen.
Yeah.
But before we learn more about AIAG, Jim, tell us more about yourself and your journey to where you sit here today.
Sure. Yeah, it's been kind of a wild ride. No regrets the whole time. It's been very exciting in supply chain. 20-year career so far, from OEM manufacturing to mid-level manufacturing, export-import compliance, a couple roles there. Ended up at AIAG about 2.5 years ago. So 1 minute you're chasing parts on third shift for minivans, and the next minute you're on Supply Chain Now Radio. So very, very exciting journey, and lecturing for a business supply chain program at a community college as well. So being in automotive, or back to automotive, I should say, has afforded me some pretty interesting opportunities, and working with folks like Amy Tinsley. She's fantastic, and the whole South Carolina Automotive Council team. So
agreed.
That's me in a nutshell.
Automotive is one of those unique industries. When you've worked in it or you've supplied the industry, it's just such a whole different sense of urgency, right? And for that matter, exactness.
Yes. Yeah, precision matters for sure.
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely. And you never lose that sense of urgency, especially if it's instilled in you early on in your career. I can tell you now that, I work on programs and content. You still, possess that kind of assembly line mentality. So it always keeps things exciting and interesting. And it's been a great career. Automotive's fantastic.
Well, so on that note, let's talk more about the AIAG, the Automotive Industry Action Group. So what does the organization do?
So we're a not-for-profit automotive association founded in the early 80s by GM, Ford, and Chrysler, really kind of founded to solve industry common problems, form standards around disparities in the way business was done among the big 3 back then. We now have 3,600 member companies, many, many smaller and mid-level manufacturing companies that just don't know what they don't know about supply chain, about quality, about corporate responsibility. So we still have the standard-setting mindset and that part of the business, but we also produce world-class events. We do training on-site. We just just moved to a new facility in Southfield, Michigan about a year ago, so kind of state of the art. Training classes going on all the time. So 47 employees, and at any given moment about 700 volunteers from the industry that work their day jobs in the industry, and they volunteer on projects at AIAG in their quote-unquote free time.
Wow.
So
3,600 member companies.
yes, it's grown quite a bit the last few years.
Man. And in the Southeast here, with the influx of more and more automotive in the last 20, 25 years, are you seeing a lot of growth here as well?
Yeah, that's the reason we're here. We're really trying to bridge the gap between Detroit and the Southeast manufacturing region. So all of the southern states have been great partners in trying to kind of bring some of our programming to the Southeast, where obviously manufacturing is migrating. So a lot of vehicles are obviously produced here, and suppliers follow suit and come down, and service providers as well. So these joint events are a great avenue to really gain some traction with potential members, welcome in the new members, pitch our sponsored membership programs, that type of thing. So we're bringing our message, out of Detroit, because if they won't come to us, we'll come to them.
Sure.
And bring it down here to the Southeast. So it's been kind of a home away from home here in Charleston. And like I said, Amy and her team at SCMA have been stellar to work with.
That's great.
It's
great to have. If you have to have a home away from home, Charleston's a great place for it.
yeah, I played tour guide last night. I've been here quite a few times myself for personal and business. So it's a great city. Yeah.
It's a great city. So in your current role, Jim, with AIAG, what do you do?
So I'm responsible for programming and content in the supply chain space. Anything from producing these events and kind of lining up the content and agendas, recruiting speakers, world-class speakers. Trade and customs is actually going to be here this time. From that to kind of coordinating our training programs, vetting our publications that have been around for a while, so revamping some of those. Industry outreach, membership outreach. Personally, I find rewarding opportunities in academic outreach. So students trying to fill that supply chain talent pipeline. I mentor 2 students locally in Detroit that are supply chain undergrads, and I mentioned now I'm lecturing for a community college as well, so trying to kind of pepper in some of my industry experience there, and to encourage young minds to get into supply chain, which I think one of the principal issues we have now is that talent pipeline, is that interest level in manufacturing and in supply chain. So that's really, I have a kind of a wide purview of what I do at AIAG, but all things content and programming and supply chain, kind of I work with those.
That nurturing and mentoring is so important. I mean, we were talking about it on the way here. When I started in what now is called supply chain, it wasn't even called supply chain.
Same
I didn't
for
start
me,
it.
yep.
And I don't think any of us grew up saying, golly, I'd much rather be in supply chain than be a race car driver, right? But it's now it's a strategic imperative, right? It's not a necessary evil as it had been in kind of a back office function.
Right? Yeah.
It's not a critical way of separating your company.
Yeah. It's a core competency versus a cost center.
Yeah.
Versus the tail on the dog. So yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And same thing for me when I started in university under, it wasn't called supply chain, it was logistics management, and it was under marketing, believe it or not. So it was a sub major, if you believe that.
And,
so,
wow.
Yeah.
Well, I for one really enjoy and can appreciate the bridge builder aspect of your role, and really the aspect of the AIG organization. We need more bridge builders in industry and society right now, so I love that component of what you do. All right, so let's talk about, we already, obviously we know why you're here, but what do you look most, I mean, this is the third year of having a successful event like this. What is your favorite component of these events?
I actually appreciate the diversity of the speakers that we have. So this started as a hybrid quality and supply chain event, basically 50-50. The IATF standard was brand new a couple years ago, so quality had a big stretch into what we were doing. At this point, it's probably 80-85% supply chain, but within that 80-85%, we have a wide diversity of speakers and messaging that's coming through. And one of the things I appreciate most or get most excited about is kind of cherry picking some of those topics and bringing that to the audience to where they're going to get the most value out of it. So 3 months ago in Detroit, we had our supply chain summit, which was a home run by all counts. We did just that. We had the challenge in supply chain is the variety of topics, or the breadth of it all. So bringing the right relevant events and topics to the audience is one of the things I find most rewarding, and I hope that happens here. I believe it will. Obviously, international trade, tariffs, that type of thing is top of mind in manufacturing companies, and there's a lack of expertise around it. So that's why we have actually 2 sessions on trade and customs. One right from CBP themselves, and one from Aaron Fox, Bridget Matheson, which you guys will talk to later on today and tomorrow.
Right.
So outstanding.
Yep.
So, Jim, what are 1 or 2 of the industry trends that you're watching or maybe tracking or worried about?
Personally, I see that kind of talent pipeline, or I should say aptitude pipeline, drying up a little bit in manufacturing, and it's pocketed around the country, right? We feel it in Detroit. Other industries feel it as well. But I think just a need for more folks to get into automotive and specialize in supply chain, that's one of the top of mind concerns, and that's personally why I do a lot more outreach than I probably should. I'm encouraging students. Number one, I'm passionate about it. Number two, I sense the talent pipeline is potentially could dry up, and as people are looking away from manufacturing as kind of a volatile area into other careers, I want to bring them back into the fold and keep America's manufacturing industry healthy.
Yeah,
That's
one thing. Yeah.
With a lot of what you're doing, especially from an enrichment and awareness standpoint, are y'all getting into elementary schools yet?
not quite elementary schools. We're working our way down to the community college, junior college level.
Yeah.
Ideally, maybe even earlier than that at some point. But yeah, we're trying to pitch careers even as far as we call it junior college or community college level. So people don't. For example, I have 35 students in my course, and only one of them is targeting a supply chain major, and I'm questioning why.
Wow.
That's probably typical.
But I think a lot of them don't know about the career and the opportunities and within. I certainly didn't at that age. So just creating awareness, that's one issue. The other issue that I think is top of mind is really what to do with all of the data that we're now being presented with, information and data. There's a lot of talk around big data and artificial intelligence and trends therein, but who's going to specialize in analyzing all this information and doing what with it? You have to take that and turn it into a skill set or to comparative advantage. So just kind of getting people's arms around what's out there, what's possible as we develop into this technical digital age, to even realize the power of what information is out there. That's the thing I see.
Well put. Yeah. I know Greg wants to ask you, Greg wants you to get your crystal ball out, but right before we do that, little sidebar, we want to talk with you about Supply Chain 101, something we've been doing in Georgia and now it's spilled over into South Carolina, where we're taking teams of supply chain practitioners in the third, fourth, and fifth grade classrooms and defining end-to-end supply chain. It has been a fascinating, through several years, over 40 sessions, 1,400 students that we have presented to and engaged with, and I think we've learned more than the students. But we could talk about that for hours. But we'll maybe compare notes afterwards.
That'd be great. Yeah,
that's a really great program. So I'd love to, considering what you're seeing, right? I mean, with what you're seeing with the talent pool and the proliferation of data, right, and obviously as well. What do you see? Any bold predictions for the future for automotive?
I'm going to be really boring here and say for bold predictions, I sense people are going to kind of get back to basics and analyzing some of their networks. What I sense is a bit of a cost crunch coming up. The economy's showing indications of the belt tightening. So I think people would be behooved to really study their networks and their opportunities. The cost of fuels fluctuated, some of the infrastructure changes. The import-export footprint has really changed, the international trade footprint. So I have a feeling people may try to get back to the kind of basic logistics management stuff next year and really understanding, optimizing their networks. I'm kind of a big believer in understanding your cost structures, right? So there'll be some of that, but again, I think the bold prediction would be, where's electrification going to go? Where's autonomous vehicles going to go? What are the investments going to look like in these solutions? Generally mobility, I think, is people are changing their mindsets about ownership of vehicles, right? Younger generations aren't quite sure they want to buy a car. So how do the automakers react to that volume fluctuation? So I think that's still building, maybe not for next year, but a couple of years and beyond. So one project we just put together was a supply chain thought leadership program with Thomson Reuters, which is the Supply Chain 2025 kind of future of automotive outlook. So we're actually in the analysis phase of the Europe and the Americas version of that right now. First drafts will be due out probably mid to late October. So looking forward to seeing what some of that
we can see what you're really thinking about for the future.
Yeah, right? Absolutely. And this was a project done in conjunction with, multiple executives, kind of interviewing them and understanding where their top of mind concerns are, what's keeping them up at night, turning that into a survey project en masse out to the industry, and then we're going to turn around and analyze the results. So it'll be a very good indicator on a wide scale.
Very cool. Yeah. And just once again, for our listeners, that'll be out?
The final reports will be out by the end of the year. Okay. The Asia Pacific regional report is actually out since May. but the Europe and the Americas version will probably be out, let's call it late October, early November, and then a global comparison by the end of the year. So that's what we call a thought leadership project that we've been working on. One of our KPIs is thought leadership at AIAG. So we worked with Thomson Reuters, which is a leading research company, right? Automotive being one of the things they specialize in. So look forward to that, and that'll be out on our blogs and web pages by the end of the year.
Cool. Well, let us know when you get that.
Absolutely will. Yeah.
One of the things a lot of times we'll do is we will meet with some of these thought leadership groups, and they'll share some of their key takeaways from these huge studies. We were just on a remote podcast with the great folks over at EFT, which are based in London, had put out a great logistics technology, state of the logistics technology. I'm butchering
study,
that.
Yes.
Study, yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
But they were able to share, there's so much information to digest, and to get, to get on with these folks and share their top 3 or 4 or 5 key takeaways. Our audience usually appreciates that, so we'll have to chat more about that.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yep.
All right.
Those kind of things.
But all this stuff, Jim, how can our listeners get in touch with you and the AIAG team?
So we're on all the social media. Obviously, LinkedIn is a big one for us for our blog posts, but AIAG.org is our website. My email address is Liegghio, Lieggio at AIAG.org. I know that's a lot of vowels. Apologize for that, but
I missed one earlier.
Hopefully you guys will provide a link. But AIAG.org is our website. We welcome all comers and inquiries. So we have a fantastic marketing department that really tries to put the right messaging out. We have electronic newsletters for supply chain, CR, and quality every month that go out, and then we have an AIAG e-news brief which covers all areas every month. So
great.
Users can download the Asia Pacific report now, and then we'll be able to catch that information and add you to our mailing list. So electronic, by all means, is the way to go. I'm on LinkedIn as well, more than I care to admit. But yeah, it's a great way to stay in touch with industry professionals and students and everything else. So LinkedIn, James Liegghio is my name there. So
great.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
Thank you so much, Jim.
Yeah.
Appreciate what you're doing in the industry. Appreciate what you're doing here in Charleston, South Carolina over the next couple of days, and appreciate you carving out some time with us here on Supply Chain Now Radio.
I appreciate you guys being here and enjoy the show. Thanks very much.
Yep. Thank you.
So don't take off just yet. We'll wrap up here with a couple of upcoming events. But Jim Liegghio is who we've been talking to, Program Manager Supply Chain with the Automotive Industry Action Group. So as always, want to wrap up this session. First off, we got to thank our sponsor, Bo Groover and the Effective Syndicate. They're doing some really neat things. Stay tuned. We've got a big event coming up September 20th, right?
That's right. We do.
We're going to be hosted.
Heck of a view, too.
Oh, yeah.
From that building.
Arnold Golden Gregory,
right,
which is a leading law firm in Atlanta. There's a lot of industry work and across supply chain. And Bo and a colleague are going to be keynoting an event kind of focused on how companies are figuring out how to grow successfully in the Amazon era, right?
Yeah.
Right.
So we're going to have a balanced approach. So the other person is a Emory professor, and we're going to talk about strategy and execution. So both pieces, if you've got them both, you're probably going to be successful. And if you've only got one of them, you're probably going to be less successful.
Wow, that's very diplomatic.
It's gentle. Being gentle.
Yes.
Well, it is a executive invitation-only event, but if you're interested, why don't you shoot Bo an email, BEAU at theeffectivesyndicate.com, and we can follow up that way. Or if you heard something else today, Greg, we're going to be at a lot of different events like this in the next few months.
But got my running shoes on.
Yeah, you got your running shoes on. So any of the events that we talk about, we touch on here briefly, you can find on our events tab at supplychainnowradio.com. But let's zero in on 2 real quick. October 9th.
October 9th is the Georgia Manufacturing Summit by the Georgia Manufacturing Alliance.
That's right.
So we're going to have, you're going to actually be hosting a panel session there, and we're going to be broadcasting live from there as well.
You're right. So this is, I didn't think about this. So Greg's going to be leading some interviews, including with some foreign trade ministers, which we're going to let out of the bag later on.
Secret stuff.
Yeah.
Bo is leading a panel session dedicated to OpEx, right?
Continuous improvement.
Continuous improvement.
Oh, nice.
And then we'll be leading a panel there dedicated to trends of track across supply chain. It's about 1,000 people at this at the manufacturing event in Georgia to be at October 9th. And keynotes from Kia, which cannot... That Telluride is selling well. Jim, I don't know if your finger's on the pulse there, but we've heard that every Telluride coming off the line here for the last several months has already been It's already got a customer.
Spoken for.
Okay.
That is-
SUVs are hot right now
Yeah.
for sure.
Man.
Yep.
So keynote from Kia and keynote from P&G, October 9th. You can learn more at georgiamanufacturingalliance.com. One other note about this event is Jason Moss, the CEO of the GMA, has freed up 50 seats free for our veterans. And that is a huge move.
Yeah.
If any of our veterans are listening, you can register at georgiamanufacturingalliance.com and use the code USAVET. And hopefully you're one of the lucky winners of the 50 seats he's freed up, which is a tremendous gesture.
Yeah.
So
appreciate that.
That's right. And then lastly, in Austin, November 7th and 8th, what's going on there?
Yeah.
Greg?
So that's the EFT Global Logistics CIO Summit. November 7th and 8th. Yeah. It's, we're going to keep it weird in Austin. So,
That's right.
About 300 execs in logistics, CIOs mostly, but other execs in logistics, rubbing elbows with solution providers and each other to come up with
Shippers,
new
retail,
ideas. And,
you name it.
Yeah.
And
So
we all
it's a
know,
great sharing of information.
and we all know how hot logistics tech, freight tech, supply chain tech is right now. A lot of money coming into that space because there's a lot of companies trying to figure things out.
Yep.
You can learn more at EFT.com, or you can go to our events tab and find out more there. In 2020, we're going to be at the Reverse Logistics Association Conference and Expo out in Vegas in February 2020. And then Modex 2020. Jim, I'm not sure if AIAG is going to be there. If not, we want to make sure y'all are there at Modex 2020 in Atlanta, which is one of the largest supply chain trade shows in North America. 35,000 people.
Wow. Okay, that's
is
a lot.
what
Yeah.
Modex
Check
is
it out.
planning.
They build factories in there.
Yes,
Yeah.
To
on the
display.
trade show.
Yeah.
They'll fill up the Georgia World Congress Center. And you know what? The cool thing is it's free to attend. So modexshow.com, we're broadcasting throughout the 4 days and,
Yep.
and holding our 2020 Atlanta Supply Chain Awards there as well. Okay. Big thanks to Jim and AIAG for everything they're doing here over the next couple of days. I think we're excited about the information exchange and networking, and to your point, Jim, the diversity of thought leadership that will be here.
Yep.
Thanks to Bo Groover and the Effective Syndicate. To our listeners, be sure to check out other upcoming events, replays of our interviews, other resources at supplychainnowradio.com. Again, you can find us on Apple Podcasts, SoundCloud, all the leading sites where podcasts can be found. Be sure to subscribe. And YouTube, that's right. So you don't miss anything.
That's right.
Find us everywhere.
That's right.
On behalf of Greg White and the entire Supply Chain Now Radio team, this is Scott Luton wishing you a wonderful week ahead, and we will see you next time on Supply Chain Now Radio. Thanks, everybody.